Welcome, everyone, to Fergo and the Freak. I'm your host, the Glorious League Freak. This is episode 306, and I have a very special guest here. It's Nadine. Hey, Nadine.
Hi, how you going?
Pretty good. Now, we should start the episode by saying a huge congratulations to Andrew, who he created a human being.
He did create a human being, but I think Mrs. Fergo did the bulk of the heavy lifting through this process. So.
Oh, look, that's not what he told me.
I'm sure it's not.
He told me it was all him, basically.
No, so congratulations. It's, as he put out on Twitter yesterday, another little Mr. Statman, which is awesome news.
Yeah. How gangster was it that he just was like, oh, yeah, we had a kid.
Oh, mic drop. Massive mic drop.
I loved it. It was great. It was fantastic. Okay, so, look, we were going to talk about some more Panthers-related stuff today. But then, all of a sudden, Israel Folau and Clive Palmer joined forces, and Rugby League will never be the same again. He's going to play, he's aiming to play for Southport in the Queensland Cup, and they reckon he'll be available to play by round 4. He had a really weird press conference with Clive Palmer where there was a revelation that Israel Folau did not write the Bible.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
Absolutely shocked.
Yeah. I always thought he did write the Bible. It changed my whole perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in somewhat seriousness, is that not the oddest couple known to mankind?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Because
I was shocked that Clive Palmer's an MP.
Oh, no, I knew that.
I didn't know that.
But I don't know what is going on here. I saw Israel Folau and Clive Palmer trending and thought, okay, which one of them has said something stupid? Outrageously either racist or bigoted.
Yeah.
Because either one could. And they've joined forces, and I think that's a monumental recipe for disaster. So does this now mean also that Clive Palmer's going into player agency realms? Because, that could be interesting at the negotiating table.
That would, you know what? He'd probably have more integrity than most player agents. But anyway, it was just like, and we've done like a million episodes on Israel Folau and all that. So, but it was just really bizarre to see. It was kind of surreal. I have a feeling I'd be kind of shocked if the NRL stepped in its sort of greater role in running the game and said he can't play. I feel like that there's going to be a bit of, it's up to the Queensland Rugby League, and then you never know with the Queensland Rugby League what they're going to say. But I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit like Carmichael Hunt when he come back to Rugby League, in that it's going to be enough under the radar where they kind of let it happen. So
yeah, it's I don't know. It's strange. And look, if you, depending on PR spin, if you're the NRL, do you kind of just allow this to happen to take some of the noise away from the current noise?
Yeah.
Something else to talk about?
That's a really good point, actually. I didn't think about that.
I should work in marketing.
You should. You know what? A smart company would give you complete control of their Instagram account.
Yes, a smart company would. I'm not so sure about what kind of podcast does that, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think just the spectacle of it all, and it was so bizarre, and like rugby league's so weird. Like just when you think that it's got one outrage going, there's a new outrage just around the corner, and God bless this game. It's fantastic.
It's just the gift that keeps on giving, right?
It really is. It really is. Like I just am amazed at some of the stuff that happens. We brought Clive Palmer and Israel Folau together. Things will never be the same again.
Well, didn't we say that when Tinky Boy was involved with the Knights. So I just feel like this is another monumental Tinky Boy disaster waiting to happen.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Like there was I'm sure I saw a quote where Clive Palmer said he was a winger in the 70s. And somebody said that can't be right.
I'd like to think that it's not right. He's the world's largest winger.
He would be. Imagine if he was like weirdly athletic when he was younger.
Yeah, that always fascinates me.
What, when you see somebody like Wayne Bennett, like you look at Wayne Bennett and you can't imagine him playing for Australia, can you?
No.
It's strange. My mind is still blown by the whole thing. Now, the Penrith Panthers produced another young, talented man who's going to make his debut this week.
Yes, Joseph Sawali.
Yeah.
To applause of Supercoach players right across the globe, me being one of them. I had Joseph Sawali in my team from day dot.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as he keeps playing, he will make me money, and that is wonderful news. But in all honesty, yes, as we keep talking about, or as you guys keep talking about, on many an episode, the Panther Junior base just keeps on producing and producing.
Exactly. It's crazy how many teams rely on it. And, I just find it really amazing that every other club isn't just studying exactly what is happening in the Penrith football area and the junior leagues and all that, because I think any club that isn't trying to reproduce exactly what is happening at Panthers, they're missing out in terms of the pressure release on your salary cap, on just being able to bring players in that are talented. I find it incredible that everyone just isn't pouring so much money into it, because, like you look at Matt Burton, if the Panthers do see Matt Burton go to the Bulldogs, they're going to be fine. Like they're not going to be without a centre. They're not going to be without a young playmaker. They're going to be absolutely fine. And I can't believe that any club wouldn't want to be in the same sort of situation.
Exactly. And it's, I think, actually, I can't even recall where I heard it, but there was a lot of discussion. It might have even been on Triple M over the weekend about the Broncos and, the predicament that we all know that they're in with regards to retention and recruitment. And it may have been Tallis, it may have been Saylor, definitely somebody who, is a Broncos former player, talking about this is a very new territory for them, because they have always had juniors to draw upon. And the fact that they find themselves in a predicament for a number of reasons, where the local talent does not want to stay and wants to pursue opportunities elsewhere, and they're now having to actually go to market and pay market value or over, is what's putting a lot of pressure on the cap, because then they're having to pay market value or over, and let's assume it's probably more overs than actual market value, to get players at the club, and that therefore limits how much they have available to retain youngsters who can go to market and get more money and potentially better opportunities. So, it is a vicious cycle, and, everyone has said that management of the salary cap is an art form. And you see quite a lot of situations where players need to be let go to free up some cap space. And obviously, this year the Panthers were, Tarmow made that decision himself. Yeah. To be fair, he knew that staying at the Panthers would take up space in the cap. It would take up an actual spot, a starting spot for somebody. And given the squad that he could see that was coming up right from Harold Matts through, that was not staying was not the right option for the club. You obviously saw Mansour got essentially pushed. Dean Farre got pushed. And this is all as a result of having the absolute embarrassment of riches right through the junior program. So, it's always nice to see young kids, and I say kids because Sawali's still a child, technically speaking, get an opportunity. It's actually really great. I disagree with the exemption that has been provided. However, it is what it is, and we are where we are. And I think that it just shows that, if you've got good pathways, good development, there is enough talent to go around. And so I think the argument around not enough talent for expansion is a weak argument and is usually flouted by those whose teams aren't developing their own players.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing is too, like, Penrith is so used to seeing like junior Panthers players playing at other clubs, and like it's weird because other clubs probably, when they see that happening, they're like, oh, it must really kill the Panthers to see it. But we've seen it for so long because the district produces so much talent. Like, I think of when Lachlan Coote was playing for the North Queensland Cowboys. We weren't thinking, oh man, I wish Coote was still at the Panthers. We're like, good on him, it's good to see a Panthers player doing that. Even though Scotland tried to claim him. How dare they? Scottish. But I just find it incredible that there's not more money put into junior rugby league by all these clubs. I actually saw somebody, and I can't remember who it was, I wish I could remember who it was, on Twitter a few weeks ago, saying that they think the NRL should take over all of the running of junior rugby league. And I was horrified by that because I'm like, the last thing I want is the NRL to get their claws into it, because the first thing they'll do is they will have everybody in the game saying, well, let's try and break down what the Panthers have built and try and, instead of saying this is working, leave it alone, they'll try and break it down and all that sort of stuff. And I don't like that idea at all. But yeah, it's pretty phenomenal what's happening at Penrith overall this year. And I think the difference that we're seeing is that at the very top level of the Panthers club and the Panthers district, it's going just as well at the very highest level as it always is at the lower levels.
Correct.
Now, you and me, we went to the footy, how many weeks ago was that? It's 3 weeks, a month ago. You invited me to a game of Rugby League. I really enjoyed the day. It was fantastic. Thank you for inviting me to the game. But while we were there, we were talking about the stadium. Very briefly. And I said I would like to see them tear down the stadium and just basically rebuild Parramatta Football Stadium, but with a different facade on it, so it's more of a Panthers stadium. And you said you wanted to see it just be rebuilt. So, and it's interesting because we agree on so many different things, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about. So, if you think about the current Panthers stadium, what would you like to see them do in a refurbishment?
Yep. So this is interesting because even a refurbishment, I'm happy for a knockdown rebuild as well. But I don't like the idea of a Bankwest or a whatever that one in Townsville is called or whatever. I think that those are too much, if that makes sense. I think that, we don't need a stadium that large, I suppose is where I'm going with that. So, and even to replicate it on a smaller level, I just don't think it's what we need. I would like whatever happens, whether it be a refurb, whether it be a knockdown rebuild scenario, or a fresh rebuild somewhere where the Panthers don't need to play out of Bankwest for any period of time. Yeah. That would certainly be the preference. Obviously this is all hypothetical. but to still retain somehow some of that real suburban ground charm. You know, and I'm not talking about crappy bathrooms or really long bar lines or anything like that, because we can certainly make sure we have none of those.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, one of the things I really love about Panthers Stadium, or Bluebet Stadium as it's now called, we'll be nice to the commercial partners, is the hills. Like, the hills have the best atmosphere going around. And it would be, you know, for me, trying to retain at least one hill would be awesome.
Yeah.
The other things that, you know, I think are desperately, desperately needed, particularly in light of the fact that, you know, the NRL are clearly wanting the Panthers to succeed, is, you know, definitely updated media facilities, updated corporate facilities. You know, anyone who's had the opportunity to go into the sheds at Panthers Stadium will know that they are poor, not like at Oval or Cogra or Asbestos Land poor, but they're poor.
I think some people would be absolutely shocked to how poor some of the change rooms are in the NRL.
Well, you can see that when, you know, they cut to vision of inside change rooms, and, you know, in some of these grounds, you know, and not these ones where you're taking games to Dubbo and Bathurst and Mudgee, you know, like these actual, you know, Cogra and even Wynn Stadium to a degree, certainly Brookvale, you know, they're almost sitting on top of each other. It's no better than playing at your local suburban oval. So definitely better facilities there, and particularly because, you know, before the Centre of Excellence was built, or the Academy rather was built out here at Penrith, the first grade team also used quite a big gym facility in the back of the stadium there, which backs onto the warm-up park or warm-up oval, which is never used for warm-up except for the cheerleaders. But with the way that they've set up that Centre of Excellence, now that's what Flag Matt's SG Ball uses. So they use the gym facility and then obviously the training field that is immediately viewable from Mulgoa Road. So, you know, getting all of those things up to scratch, you know, and into the 21st century would be amazing. I love the idea of, with the exception of the hill, having as much undercover as possible. You know, it obviously gets bloody cold out here in the middle of winter. And if you're one of those poor souls who has terrace seating, you're really suffering. But I do like the idea of the terraces as well. You know, that open air element, you know, also lends itself to that suburbanness. So I think that there's an element of trade-off between how much comfort do you want to give versus how much of that suburban element do you actually want as well. So they're the key things. I think from a fan's perspective, you know, I'm thinking, you know, that was more kind of players and corporates and media and stuff. From a fan perspective, the undercover thing would certainly be important to every fan. Again, given it can be, you know, the start of the season can be super hot, you know, like if you're playing round, you know, the first 5 or 6 rounds out there, we can still be getting 30 plus degree days. And obviously we can be getting into the minuses sometimes, very rarely, but, you know, if you've got a night game in the middle of July, it's not uncommon for that to be played in low single digits. So having the cover is useful, but certainly, you know, bathroom facilities need to be drastically increased and improved, as well as catering facilities, you know, in terms of what is available. You know, the bulk of the catering at Panthers Stadium now is done by third-party operators.
And food trucks and stuff.
And food trucks and stuff. But they're obviously, you know, the lines for those are absolutely insane. So, like, you know, you're talking about game day experience. That's not wonderful. No, you know, that you're spending a half of football sometimes standing in the line for either food or drink or both.
And like I remember when I went to and I've been to Parramatta Stadium a few times, the Bankwest Stadium, and during the Rugby League World Cup of Nines, like while the games were on and while the crowd was at its biggest, I would go down to get something to eat, and the longest queues were maybe 3 people in front of me for food.
Mm-hmm.
And if you walked a little bit further along to one of the other food places, you just walked straight up and got what you wanted straight away. And it's those little experiences that can be improved at these football grounds where, you know, it's these 5% changes that can be made that can turn what is a bit of a, like, they're doing their best experience to, wow, this is amazing. Like, I've got to get out here more often.
Yeah. And I think the other thing for Penrith, and there's not a lot of clubs that are in this position, fans are very late to come into the ground, and despite best efforts with regards to having a full slate of games on offer, like Penrith really likes the concept of 3 games on game day as much as they possibly can, and I know the NRL's been looking to try and push that a little bit more this year, as far as they can with regards to COVID regulations and the like, but it's a very late, particularly on a Friday evening or a Saturday evening, because everyone's at the club across the road. So, they've got the benefit of having those licensed premises where, you could literally walk across the road 10 minutes before kickoff, and as long as you're an actual ticketed member, your seat's there, you walk in, you sit down, and you're done. So, but if you're racing from work on a Thursday night, Friday night, that poses a problem. And if you're then, racing to the stadium, and the same could be said here for, anybody that are really on the fringes, or even people trying to get from the CBD to Sydney Olympic Park on a Friday night for a 6 p.m. game in particular, that can be a slog in itself, and it's only about 20 kilometres. If you don't have the facilities to be able to have somebody arrive, straight from work, grab something quick to eat, grab their beers or whatever they're drinking, and get to their seats fairly quickly, people just won't come. And that's what you see. They don't go because not only is the time slot terrible if you are anybody that needs to do anything functional the next day, in terms of getting up and going to work, or if you've got kids, you need to get the kids sorted, or it's too late for the kids, or whatever the situation is. People won't make the effort because they're like, oh my God, I've got to find parking, or I'm at the mercy of public transport, or, and then when I get there, it's going to take me this long to do X, Y, Z. And, yes, these are all excuses because rusted on fans will absolutely still do that. But as we know, if you want to grow the game, it's how do you entice new fans? What are the new markets? And, some of these grounds that are in need of some TLC will not draw in those new markets by any means.
Yeah. And like, I know for me personally, and I know you get to games when the gates open, and you know that I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, I'll be there 10 minutes before kickoff.
Yes.
And so one of my things is parking. And we've got this funny thing in rugby league where, because some of the grounds and the parking and the facilities are not great, if it starts to look like it's going to be a big game, you'll get a lot of people that'll be like, nah, there'll be so many people there, it'll be too difficult to get parking and all this sort of stuff. And so the points you make are really good. I know for me, my number one thing is, can I park my car somewhere? And if I can't think of a place that I can park my car pretty easily, straight away that game lowers down on whether I'm going to make the effort to go, because, and people can say public transport, and I look at, say you've got a game at the Sydney Football Stadium or at Moore Park. If you've got to travel from Penrith, straight away you've got to get the train there. That's going to be, if you're lucky, an hour just to get to Central. Then you've got to get from Central to the stadium, which, who knows? So, like, I've done the walk. I know that they're trying to get the public transport fixed up for that. That's great. But then you've got the game, which is 2 hours. Then getting out of there was just rough enough just getting out the stadium, which that's one of the reasons they tore it down, because you were packed in like sardines. Then you got to get back to Central. Then you got to wait for the train. But if the train just happens to be there and it's not all stops, like you're getting back to Penrith close to midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden you've invested like just about 6 hours to go and watch a 2-hour football game. And if you've got that or just watching it on TV, most people are going to say, you know what, I'll just watch it on TV, you know. So for me, parking is huge for all of these stadiums. For people that don't know, the Penrith Football Stadium is situated just across the road from the trotting track, and the trotting track has been moved out the back of Penrith. So there's an opportunity to either build a brand new stadium there or build something. It just depends. I think that's where they'll build a new stadium. I think it'll be a big announcement. I would personally love any new stadium or refurbishment to be on the footprint of the old stadium, but it's just so easy to build a new stadium on that trotting track. You still play football at Penrith Football Stadium, and then when it's built, you know, you move in. It's just too easy to not do it that way. But my personal opinion is I would love to see just a complete replica of Bankwest Stadium built, 30,000 seats. I think we would, considering it would be a better facility and better to use, I think we would get crowds of 25,000 a lot of the time. And I think that for the big games, we would make use of the 30,000 seat stadium. I would like to see the outside completely looking different, and that's very easy. You just, you know, have a different facade on it, paint the whole thing black, you know, even that would do. Can you imagine? Oh, man.
How could we make the facade on Mulgoa Road look like the old Panthers scoreboard? Like, make it look like a Panther.
Exactly. Just a big Black Panther curled around the outside of the stadium. Oh, that would be incredible. And, you know, the other thing I think that they would build into all of this is a giant walkway that would go over the top of the road at Mulgoa Road, so that you didn't have to wait for the lights and people could just walk in from the Panthers car park, and also, of course, from the club. I would guess that the club would itself be willing to pay millions of dollars just for that to happen, because they'll get that money back. But parking is a huge one for me. I would love them to have more parking, whether they had underground parking or just, you know, one of the two facilities just have parking there. I don't know, or a parking garage or something.
And it's interesting because the Panthers group, which doesn't necessarily incorporate the football club, that's all the licensed premises, their master plan is for the entire stretch of available car park at the moment along Mulgoa Road to actually be developed. Yeah. So at the moment, half of what was a car park is a construction site for a community convention centre thing, which is being investigated, but that's a different story about funding. But there's certainly that's what they would like to do in terms of to activate a retail precinct in that space, which is why they built a multi-story car park behind, and even that convention centre space has got basement car parking, which is able to be used now. But the more they take away all of the parking around, it just it ends up being like Cogra, like Brookvale, like not as bad as Leichhardt, but you end up just choking the streets with, the local streets with, cars and the like. So, the car parking one it's interesting because I keep hearing through a number of other reports as a result of COVID and research being done of people returning to work that Sydney particularly has become so reliant on their cars that there's a genuine fear that we will end up like Los Angeles, where we are just choked to death by our cars.
Yeah, and for people that don't know Sydney, especially overseas listeners, you can literally drive for 2.5 hours and still be in Sydney, depending on where you're driving from and to.
Me on a daily basis to and from work.
Yeah.
So what are we? We're 50 kilometres as the crow flies from the CBD.
Mm-hmm.
I work on the outskirts of the very outskirts of the CBD, I would say. And I am fortunate enough to have parking available at a very, very cheap rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it makes sense in terms of my time, even cost, and factoring in wear and tear on my vehicle and things like that, for me to drive rather than to do public transport.
Mm-hmm.
But some days I could leave home at 6:30 in the morning and be in the office in 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Other days I can leave at the same time, and because of sometimes no reason other than traffic, like there's no accidents or anything, it could take me 2 hours to drive that. And the vast majority of that trip is on a freeway/motorway, whichever language people use for those particular roads, wherever they are, where there is no traffic lights.
Yeah, and it's the best time for someone at Penrith is when you've got to pick someone up at the airport, or you've got to be at the airport at the right time, and you can be like, well, if we're going to play it safe, let's do 3 to 3.5 hours of time to get there and be there on time, and literally like. It might be just a straight through run, you're fine, and other days you're like, thank goodness, because you will, even if you do 2 hours, a lot of the times you're struggling to get there within 2 hours.
And this is where I'm fascinated that the NRL allows, and I say allows because, whilst yes, they're at the mercy slightly, I shouldn't say that. They're at the mercy of broadcasters with regards to the draw. I'm always perplexed that there are games scheduled in Penrith, Campbelltown, Brookvale, Central Coast at 6 p.m. on a Friday.
Yeah.
To me, that time slot should be an absolute no-go zone for those stadiums in particular. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's like. Melbourne, I'm assuming, isn't an issue because it's right at the CBD and their public transport is quite well structured in terms of there's a tram stop right there. Yeah. And Brisbane, they get 8 o'clock Friday night, so it doesn't matter. And even Wynn Stadium, not that they really get 6 o'clock on a Friday night either much. But I think any of those that are really on the outskirts of Sydney in particular for this argument, 6 p.m. is just don't.
Townsville's another one. Like they had that game. I remember they used to say, well, we have the Cowboys games on Saturday because people travel in from quite a big distance to go. And I'm watching the game last night and the crowd was super, super poor. And it's not because the stadium is bad and there's bad facilities there because it's a brand new stadium.
Correct.
It's just that it's just the wrong time for a game. And I think we all like the Thursday night footy now. It gives us something to watch. And when it's not on, we feel like we're missing something. Yes. But I think that it is one of those time slots that they really need to work out who are the best teams to play them in. And at that 6 p.m. Friday night game is the exact same thing. I think there are certain teams that will work for, but most teams it will not work for.
Yeah, it is fascinating that, and as I said, obviously the draw is really done by the broadcasters, not by the NRL, let's be honest. Yeah. And it would be nice if we got to a position where it was like, no, this is the draw. And it's not about, fair enough, have your retro rounds or your rivalry rounds or whatever, and then slot other things around them.
Yeah.
But, it just, I get they're paying a lot of money. I really do understand, genuinely do. I work in business. I get it. It just baffles me that the broadcasters have so much control, or at least appear to have so much control. That's certainly the narrative that we've been sold for many, many moons, that, Channel 9 goes in and says, well, we want these games. And then Fox say, well, we want these games at these times. And then it's just potluck for everything else.
Do your best from there, yeah.
Pretty much.
Now, going back to Panthers, a Panthers possible stadium, would you be willing to have pretty much 3/4 of Parramatta's Bankwest Stadium with one end open as being a hill?
Yes, possibly. But I don't like the square nature, of the outside of the facade. Like that, it looks like a massive rectangular box has just been dumped on O'Connell Street, and I really dislike it. I don't. So, and I know that that's facade. I get that that's the facade element. Yeah. But even when you're in there, it just feels like a giant rectangular box. So, if that's the kind of replication we're talking about, no, I want to see something very different.
Okay.
Very different.
See, it's interesting because I like that aspect of it.
Really?
Yeah, I like that you go into that stadium and it feels enclosed and it's just banks of seats. And I love the way that the sound stays in there. And I love that, the very worst seat in that stadium is an amazing view. There's no doubt about that. If someone said, pick the worst seat, and most people would say up in the corner, that seat is a fantastic view. And so I kind of like that boxed in sort of feel to it, but I feel like you could break that up with, I wonder what that stadium would look like. And when they made that stadium, they were trying to make it as cheap as possible. So I think that's why we don't see a lot of the extra things added to it. And that's fine. I feel like there was a certain element of, let's show what we can do with this much money and what the atmosphere will be like and what the experience will be like. And then down the track, we can sort of build similar ones like that, but we'll tweak it and add different things to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't actually be surprised if in 10 years' time you turn up to Parramatta Football Stadium and from the outside at least it looks really, really different. And so I wonder what a stadium like that would be like, but if you had all black seats and a different facade around the outside that maybe curls around it with a big panther like we said.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of clearly something being built for a rectangular game, obviously.
Yep.
But from the outside, it doesn't just look like a big rectangular box. It's having something more architecturally sound about it. So there's some interest.
Yeah.
And I just don't find Bankwest, and I don't know, it's interesting that I sit here and go, a stadium should look interesting, but I think it should look interesting. It's such a big piece of architecture taking up a significant amount of land space and volume that make it look good.
What if on the outside they did something like they built the facade so it flared out so it looked like a big trapezoid?
A trapezoid?
Yeah.
Could you have picked a more obscure shape?
I know, that's what I'm saying. There are different things you could do to it, right, that could make it look really super different and not just, as you say, a box filled with seats. What if you did something like that where, because they can build all sorts of things attached to it. You could have a gigantic, on one side of the stadium, say they built it up against, say, Mulgoa Road, and the other side you built a giant atrium on one side of the stadium where it was just filled with, places to eat and things like that leading.
Oh my God, that sounds like, which NFL team? That sounds like the Vikings. That sounds like their stadium.
Their new stadium?
Yeah.
I see. I haven't seen their new stadium.
It sounds similar to that because they've got one where the end is glass.
Yeah.
So you can see the city, the city skyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
that's a bit fancy.
Well, I
Too
always
fancy for Penrith. Someone will graffiti that.
I just that's very true. I guess all I'm saying is just spend $1 billion on this stadium at Penrith. I always felt like if they were, because there was talk they were going to tear down Stadium Australia at Homebush and rebuild it, and I was just like, if they do that, they need to just have a look at some of these NFL stadiums with not only the fact of it being indoor, but having the retractable playing surface where they literally wheel the playing surface out so it gets sunlight, all week, and then during the game they wheel it back in, let them play the game, and then wheel it back out, so that you've got the best of both worlds. It's an enclosed stadium, but at the same time you've still got grass on the field. And just things like that, being able to open one side. I know Dallas Cowboy Stadium opens at one side. There's another stadium where I was just watching a video the other day, and they said they have the largest glass doors in the world, so they can open up one side of the stadium. Just different things like that. But that would be for the ultimate Sydney stadium. And so obviously there's, they're not going to have the ultimate Sydney stadium at Penrith. Just the team. It's the ultimate football team.
I think that's the Vikings stadium that you're talking about.
Oh, with the big glass doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
US Bank Stadium.
And like things like that, I think for an ultimate stadium are a good idea. But for a and it's at the end of the day, it's kind of a suburban ground that you would want at Penrith Football Stadium. It's going to be hard to justify that sort of outlay unless you can tie it into all sorts of things. And
well, that's exactly what I was just about to say. It would be really good to see that. Have a facility that, have a facility that could accommodate concerts, could accommodate, I say concerts, but, that kind of outdoor music experience kind of thing.
Yeah.
Could accommodate, the Matildas playing, could accommodate, the Socceroos if we wanted it, could accommodate anything like that, where you've got potential, traveling teams and the like. And I think that would be amazing. Whereas at the moment, whilst, yes, the quality of the pitch is amazing and all of that kind of things, the facilities themselves do not lend the stadium to being used for anything other than rugby league.
Yeah. And that's a big point, is that this stadium, it would want to be available to everyone. Like I could see where, that you'd have maybe the West Sydney Wanderers play a couple of games there and not lose a season ticket holder place because the stadium's too small, or, things like that. You would want this to be a facility that's used if you could year round, and that would be the concerts and things, because it would have to be a rectangular stadium without question.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's interesting to think about. Now, one thing I think we need is a statue, okay? Now, do we build a giant Panther statue, or do we build a giant Greg Alexander statue? Or, we need something that you go up to and you rub its feet for good luck before a game.
Mate, it's Royce every day of the week.
Roycey, holding the trophy above his head?
Always Royce.
Okay, I'm up for that.
Because then people will stop talking to him in person. The poor bugger cannot get around Penrith without someone wanting to have a chat. And look, I will be fair, Royce will equally just engage in that conversation. He will talk to everybody and anybody, but it's got to be Royce.
Okay, I'm up for that.
Definitely Royce. Because
part of me was like, do we build different statues for all the players? And I'm like, there's too many players. Like, where do you draw the line? Okay, so it has to kind of be one player. I'm happy for it to be Royce Simmons.
Royce. Definitely Royce.
Okay. Now,
because when you think of Penrith, in all honesty, when you think Penrith, is Royce not the first player that comes to mind?
I feel like, depending...
Don't talk to me, don't say Graham Moran, because I'll slap you the next time I see you.
Peter Jorgensen, no.
Cole Vandervoort.
Imagine if I'd have said Matt Adamson.
I've got a funny story about him. I'll tell you off air.
Okay, excellent. Oh, fantastic. It's between Royce, Greg Alexander, and Mark Geyer for me.
Yeah.
It's those three. But then,
so the problem we've got with those three is
there's not enough bronze to build a statue of Mark Geyer, first of all. He's too big.
Well, no, I was going to say two are absolute characters.
Yes.
And the other is a straighty 180.
Yes.
Or at least comes across as a straighty 180.
Yes.
So you can't have the straighty 180.
Okay.
It doesn't work. You need a character.
You need... what if... okay, how about this? We build a statue of Royce, but like... on either side of it, they build like mini bars.
Oh my God, I was literally just thinking it needs to be a statue of Royce, like at a bar, like holding court at a bar. And then you can have your photo taken looking like you're having your beer with Royce.
Yeah, well, here's what I thought. you got the big bronze statue of Royce, and this statue in my head is like, it'd cost like $500 million on itself. It should be like 100 feet.
Oh, so Clover Moore's organising it. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so, but then you've got bars either side of it that sort of face towards a bunch of seating, so you could literally sit there and have a beer with Royce before the game.
I like it.
All they serve is beer, nothing else.
And could this be also at a point where if you are outside, not outside the stadium, you would still need to be inside the stadium precinct, but outside the core stadium, as it were, where you could see the team running out of the tunnel past this bar area.
Okay, what about this? Okay, we have 3/4 of the Bankwest, right? One side's the hill. Then behind the hill, on the outside of the stadium, is your Royce Simmons giant statue and your bar area that sort of is outside the stadium. But when it's time to kick the game off, the statue does a 180 and is watching over the stadium with the trophy.
Stop it! That's the best.
Oh, seriously, this is just too good.
That would be amazing.
That would be ridiculous.
Could you imagine a rotating Royce Simmons?
And somebody flicks the switch before we do the Panthers Viking clap that we stole.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's it. It's done.
We did it.
Stadium built.
Yeah. Which way would the hill be though? Would it be on the south or the north? I feel like it'd have to be the south if they built it on the. They should just get rid of that little road. What's that little road's name that goes next to the stadium?
Ransley.
Yeah, I think get rid of it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's superfluous to needs.
Yeah, just get rid of that. We've got Royce Simmons Bar and the biggest, what would they call it? The biggest, the largest moving statue on planet Earth.
Yes.
I like this idea.
This could be good.
Yeah. Just get in touch with us.
It'd be like an Olympic torch, right?
Yes, it kind of would be.
Oh, that's it. So Royce is at ground level pre-game.
Yeah.
And then the countdown to kickoff is the statue being hoisted. And then Royce looks down over the ground.
Okay, so so when it's in its seated position facing outwards from the stadium.
Correct.
It's fine. But when it gets time to kick off, right?
Yeah, the 2-minute bell.
It screws sort of upwards. So when it turns around towards the stadium, it goes up as well.
Yes.
And then instead of having a stupid horn or these sorts of dumb things other teams do, somebody goes up and they do a cheers thing with a can of beer off the side of its leg, and then they scull it.
Is that going to be a celebrity every week? Or like a former player, or is it just going to be like real Royce?
I feel like if it's Royce himself, we might kill him.
I don't know.
Can you imagine?
I feel like he's primed.
I know he's been training for this all his life, right? But I just think it's too much that he's there at his own bar with his giant statue, and before the game is kicked off, everyone's going to want a beer with him, and then as the game's kicking off, he's, cheersing himself with more beer. I don't know that a human being can survive that.
You've not had a beer with Royce, have you?
No, I haven't.
Right. That comes across in that statement.
Okay. And yeah, former players. I reckon former players, and that's it. No celebrities. Like, what celebrity would you want to see pretend that they're going to get absolutely shit-faced like that? I'd rather just see the players do it, former players.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, celebrities aren't coming to Penrith.
Well, you and me.
Unless they've got a show to promote at Evan Theatre.
Yeah, that's true, Evan Theatre.
So we'd have Shannon Knoll every week.
I was about to say there's only certain people that go to Evan Theatre. Oh, shit, that's funny. Wow. And so you reckon you would want a 25,000 seater?
Yeah, 25 I think would be good.
I'd want 30. Give me 30.
So is that 30,000 bums on seats, or is that 30,000 including all the corporates and the media and all that kind of stuff?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I just want whatever Parramatta's got. I don't know what it is. I just love that stadium.
Why?
Because it's you go there, it's the best viewing experience, it's the best comfort experience, and I like the way it holds the sound, and the best part about it is when you're in there, you don't have to see Parramatta, which is a dump.
I was wondering how long it was going to take you to crap on that Parramatta.
I like going to Parramatta Leagues Club. I like going to Parramatta Leagues Club after the game as well because it feels like Penrith Panthers foyer.
Yes.
So correct. Small, insignificant, and tiny.
Quaint. It's quaint.
Yeah. It's adorable is what it is. The good thing is they don't need to find any space for a trophy cabinet in that place.
No.
I tell you, one of the experiences. Yeah, exactly. Although I hear they're no, stop talking.
Move along.
So yeah, I think we've covered all the bases on what we would want out of a Penrith football stadium upgrade or refurbishment. I think we're very similar to what we want, but it's just a case of really a few smallish details.
Yes. I think whatever you want to lift and shift Bankwest, yep. I think we need something that is more unique.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to sum it up.
I do as well. But I think if we both had somebody draw up our perfect stadiums, I think that we would both say, oh, yeah, I'd go with that one.
Yes.
Yeah, especially the giant Roy Simmons statue.
Yeah, that's a masterstroke, that one.
I think so too. I think the biggest statue in the world, it's either Genghis Khan or there's a statue in India of Gandhi. I believe it might be Gandhi.
Wouldn't it be Christ the Redeemer?
I think these other statues are bigger than those.
Really?
Yeah, have you seen the Genghis Khan statue?
No, I'm Googling this though.
It's bloody gigantic. It's huge.
The Statue of Unity is the world's tallest statue at 182 meters.
And is that in India?
No.
Okay, hang on. Let me
hang on. Sorry. Oh, sorry, it is. Yes, I tell a fib.
Okay.
It is in India.
Okay. You see, I'm a man of the world. I know this shit. So why is the Genghis Khan statue? I wonder if the Genghis Khan one is not. It's not classified as just a statue. No, it is a statue complex. It's 131. Oh, it's 41 meters tall. I think we can beat that. I think a 50-meter tall Royce Simmons. Is there enough bronze on planet Earth for that?
Yeah, mate, we'll be right.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll make it out of copper. We can just, mine that shit locally.
I think copper's. I don't know that we could do that. That'd be the most expensive. Copper's really expensive now.
Yeah, but if we mine it ourselves, well, we don't need to ship it anywhere.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Surely you can make a statue out of something and just coat it.
Cover it. I was, oh my God, stop it.
What would be?
That's what they do with the Olympic medals.
Yeah, it's like
it's a
bit
compound material.
Yeah, and then they just cover it in gold and stuff.
Exactly. You know what? I'll just nip down to Coles and buy some gold leaf.
That'd do it. Oh, exactly. Can you imagine? Okay, a 50-foot giant gold-leafed Royce Simmons, and it's got a little part on the bottom where he can pass out.
I like it.
Yeah, we sorted it out. That's fantastic.
Hilarious. Now, how are you going in the tipping comp, mate? Question without notice, because I know you won't have this information up.
Okay, let me find it. Not good. Okay.
No, I know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let me log into the tipping competition. I've had I think about 3 or 4 really bad weeks.
Yeah, I can tell you. You are 13th.
How good is Sarah going at the top?
Yeah, amazing.
She's smashing it.
So Sarah and James and Mars Broncos and
Andrew,
and Marksman.
Yep.
Are all on 63. Although Sarah's obviously got a very favourable margin, although so does James. James is good as well.
Yeah, he is.
And then Peter R is on 62. And then there is Daniel W, Dick at Devil's First Quarters. I fucking love that name. And me on 61.
Bragging.
Yep. And then there's a whole range of people. And then, look at League Freak, 59. Sorry.
Yeah. It's been, okay, so 63.
And Andrew's on 54, but he went up last week. You went down.
Yeah. And I think we've had an extra person join in the last week since I looked at it last anyway. But yeah, it's the last probably 3 weeks haven't been good for me. And last night I tipped wrong. I tipped Newcastle. And come
on.
But
call yourself an expert.
The thing is, I thought Newcastle had more talent, right?
Well, was your first problem.
And then I thought that they were due to fire up because they've been playing so poorly. And then the game started and I was like, this was a mistake. Yeah,
the fact that Drinkwater actually played well.
Do you mean Daylight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Says volumes.
It does, yeah. It does. He the Newcastle defence is so soft. And they just play with that desire. And the thing that got me, you look at their kick chasers, they just amble on down. They don't even run. It's crazy. I saw that
you tweeted that last night.
Yeah, that really shocked me how just casual they were about it, like it was a training session or something.
I think the scoreline flattered the effort. Obviously, they put on a few points whilst the Cowboys had a couple of players in the bin.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the next few weeks.
Those
guys.
Yeah, and the other thing was like the Cowboys. If you take out when they had 2 players sent off, the Cowboys completely dominated that game. But then you look at the scoreline, and it doesn't reflect that. And if we've got a rule set where that's the case, where you can absolutely flog a team, but it doesn't really show up like that in the scoreline, there's something wrong with the rules.
Correct.
And me and Andrew, our next episode that we're planning to record tonight, he's going to break down a lot of the stats that the NRL put out yesterday, and then the reply that was from the Rugby League, was it the Players Association?
Yeah, the RLPA, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go through.
That could be a rage episode for Andrew.
We've done so many rage episodes. That's why I did the 1990 episode in the last one, because I was like, we can't just have episodes where we're just yelling at the microphone.
Oh, well, the Warriors are playing the Tigers at 6 o'clock. Look, hopefully he's still in that blissful baby bubble kind of situation.
Fingers crossed. Although I think he's more resigned at this point as a Tigers fan. Like when you talk to him, you say, "Oh, when do you decide to say, oh, I've given up on this season?" And he says something like 2013. So I feel sorry for him. I don't know.
He's very pragmatic. I will give him that. He very much is the statistician.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Listen to us talking like a couple of arrogant Panthers fans, hey?
It's only arrogant if you can't back it up, like I tweeted last night.
Imagine having teams that lose games. That'd be weird.
Having said that, I am very nervous about this week.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Yes. I think this game is a danger game. And the fact that Latrell's back, he could either, in all honesty, have an absolute blinder or try so hard that he gets sent off.
I feel like he is going to have a blinder or he's going to have a shocker for that same sort of reason.
Yeah.
And I felt like that all week.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's played in Dubbo. So, there's a thing of going to Dubbo. But then there's a lot of local players that are in the side from Dubbo. Mm-hmm. So that's good for them. Obviously we both tipped the Panthers, but
correct.
It's one of the three teams that I've said is going to be in the title race. And if we put it to the Rabbitohs, and we've already beaten the Storm, there's really just the Eels to beat, and that's more just for entertainment,
Correct. I must say, I'm actually really looking forward to the Eels Manly game.
It could be an interesting one, hey?
Who have you tipped?
I tipped the Eels.
Oh, really? I've tipped Manly. I'm going an upset.
The other game which
because why?
Why?
Because Manly doesn't have Clint Gutherson.
That's a good point. I still think back of the episode me and Andrew did a couple of weeks ago where we said, would you rather have Gutherson or Anthony Milford at fullback for the Eels? And we both felt Milford would make them so much more dangerous. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if that makes us both crazy or geniuses. And I tend to lean towards geniuses.
Yeah. There's an element of crazy in every genius, though.
That's a good point. That's a good point. The other game I'm looking forward to is Raiders versus Storm, because I feel like the Storm could whip the Raiders. And I feel like these are the whippings the Raiders need to make the changes that they need to make.
Well, it'll be interesting because a lot of the players that I believe are the problem for the Raiders are actually not playing this week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it will be really fascinating to see, how they go.
Yeah.
I'm on the record as not really rating Hodgson. I don't feel that he gives them enough out of dummy half and think that Starling gives them better options.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm looking at the players, but I'm looking at a field version, so it's just got surnames. And I was like, Williams and Williams. Is he playing two positions? And then I realised, no, there's two separate people. Yes. That's not going to be confusing at all.
No.
George Williams, to me, I know you share the same opinion, is just no good.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's just, you can see he doesn't want to be there anymore,
So, look, if Whitehead actually knuckles down, I reckon he'll be the difference. Mm-hmm. But he's so inconsistent.
But
I think that sums up the Raiders, obviously. Inconsistent across the board.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, it'll be, look, I think Melbourne will win and win comfortably, despite the fact that they've got a whole range of players missing as well. It should just be, a training run for Melbourne.
It should be, yeah.
But the fact that it's in Canberra, Nah. I've tipped Melbourne, obviously.
And the thing is, the Storm, they know what it's like to be freezing cold. So
True.
they're going to be used to that, and in a city they don't want to be in. The
not
other
Tamworth,
games.
mate, it's not Tamworth.
Did you see my post the other day about Tamworth and the rats?
The mice? Yes,
Yeah,
I replied to that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Sure, you can't rate your own gear on Twitter, you fool.
All my tweets are good. Just ask me. I'm like the Peter Volandis of Twitter.
Oh, here we go. That's a new low.
Yeah, that really is. I feel dirty saying that. The other games, the Sharks and Dragons will be interesting just because the Dragons are missing so many players, and, the Sharks have been so poor over the last month or so. They should look good in this game just because the Dragons are so short on players. Yeah,
I think the Dragons this year are what the Bulldogs were last year, in my opinion, which is they at least put in.
Yeah.
They might lack that creative finesse to finish a play or finish a set well or whatever, but you're always going to get a commitment from them.
Yes.
Whereas I don't see that in the Sharks. I don't see that same level of doggedness. And so I've tipped the Dragons.
Wow. I tipped the Sharks just on their outs.
I'm going to absolutely annihilate you in the tipping this week.
You watch. I'm making a comeback. And, the Warriors, West Tigers, I'd be shocked if the Warriors didn't win that. They should just be too big, too strong.
Correct.
That's the way I felt like that. And the Roosters should, flog the Broncos.
Absolutely.
Titans versus Bulldogs. How many tries can Fafita score in a game? Is he playing? I should check that he's playing.
Hang on, I don't think he's playing. Didn't he cop a 2-match ban?
Oh, I've made a terrible mistake. No, it's still...
the first time you've said that.
Damn, that's my 24th today. I'd still go the Titans in that one.
I've tipped the Titans.
Yeah.
No Fafita.
Yeah. Damn it. Damn. Anyway.
I like that. I've made a terrible mistake.
So tell us about running our Instagram account, and where people go on Instagram.
Yeah, go on Instagram, search Fergo Freak Pod. You will find the page, and B, find a page that has content. I am shamelessly stealing information from other websites, but giving credit, I will say that I am not like Fox or Channel 9. I am giving credit simply because, I don't actually have the time to create any of my own funny memes at the moment. But, yeah, definitely go on there. There's a heap of polls that I will put up, or questions, and some of which, will feed into future episodes of podcasts, or sometimes I might just reply straight away. But, yeah, get in there, get involved. If there's, anything that you want to share, let me know and I can share it. But yeah, we want to see the numbers go up for that in particular. Yeah, we want to pump those numbers on the Instagram. Correct. And get involved, and you tell us what's going on, and we'll be like, oh, it'd be cool if this was on there, and you're like, oh, I've already done it, and it looks really good. It's really impressive what you've done. Yeah, well, thanks. It's only been a week. It was interesting last week trying to keep up with all the Magic Round shenanigans. Yep. And things like that, and kind of figuring out what might be the best way to do certain things. So you might see that there's a whole flurry of posts and then maybe nothing, and then it might be the other way round where, it might be like, oh, I'm just going to back off for, the week. And then on the weekend it kind of all comes, or, I'm kind of figuring out the best way to drip feed the information, or get the information out there. But certainly won't be all serious. There will be a lot of lighthearted stuff in there too, because that's obviously the nature of the podcast itself. Yeah, we try to be lighthearted from time to time. Time to time, hey. Yeah, I really try.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
I can be found on Twitter at NLC081.
Nice.
What about you?
Well, I can be found at League Freak with no space between League and Freak.
And Andrew can be found at Andrew RLP.
Yeah, Andrew RLP. Obviously, now you all know why I kept on saying Andrew's a bit busy.
We just thought he had COVID. It's fine.
He probably does. But
we thought he was patient zero.
Yeah. They're studying him in a lab. But yeah, and we're going to just do podcasts with him over the next couple of weeks when we can. When he's going to get back, I think he'll be back sooner rather than later because both me and him, we'll be in touch and it's like, okay, yeah, you're gonna have some time off, and he's like, yeah. Well, last night we were gonna do a podcast, So I don't think he'll be missing too many episodes anyway. But it was good news. Yeah, and I also have to say a big shout out to a friend of mine called Mystic Moon. I told them that I would shout them out, and I'm gonna have to remember what time it is in the podcast.
1:58. Hi.
Yeah, hi Mystic Moon, wanting me to bloody put your name out there. Somebody that I play on Xbox Live with. We played a lot of Destiny and Destiny 2 and stuff like that.
Oh,
so hello Mystic Moon. Anything else we got?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing, because I will be able to post it on Instagram. Just saying. Origin teams, when are we doing that podcast? Andrew, I'm talking to you. Get your team ready.
Yeah, he's got to get his team ready. I've got my team all selected except one, and I'm still working on that one. It's a bench player, and I like my Origin bench to look a certain way, and so I'm still working out who I want on that bench. But my Origin team is just about ready to go.
Nice.
And if Andrew can get his team together, I know he's not that busy at the moment, and then
he's got heaps of time.
Yeah, he's fine. He did the hard work. So we'll get what we think our Origin team should be out soon. I've got an episode that's coming up next week with Jamie, which is about a subject that I think is an interesting one that people have different opinions on. And it's one that we've had lined up for a little bit of time. It's not another marry, dump episode. It's a bit more serious than that. So yeah, we've got a lot coming up. It's going to be good.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
It's so much fun having you on and having a chat with you. This might be the longest podcast you and me have done. An hour and 12 minutes.
No. Maybe it's the longest one to be released.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
The infamous secret episodes.
Secret episode. Oh, geez. That's a funny on that one.
Move along.
Yes. So thank you for coming on. We'll have you on again very soon. Thanks to everyone for listening. Tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast. Retweet it. We love it when you retweet it. Thank you, Stone Gozzard. Thank you, Gibbo. We see all of your retweets when you retweet it, so thank you all for that. And we will catch you very soon in the future.
See ya.